The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't have much to say. We have taken, we have had almost a 2-month break, and I've been informed by the business leader that during the last 2 weeks he's repeatedly been in communication with the government trying to find out what bill would we be debating, and could not get any response. Could not get any response. I was informed just yesterday of which we would be debating, and therefore would not have had adequate time to properly prepare. But, Madam Speaker, in spite of that, it's essential for me to speak especially about areas that would be affected in my constituency. Before I start, I want to extend condolence to the Arana family, Keith Arana, who's a prominent, well-known businessman in the Farm Road community, Fleming Street, has passed away. And Keith would have left a wealth of knowledge and made great impact within the Farm Road community, Fleming Street. Everyone would know the business as Keith's Chicken Shack. And Keith at one time had expanded to the Grove, East Street and Balfour Avenue, next to his brother's service station. That was short-lived, and he concentrated specifically on the Fleming Street area. But he was a close friend, my father and family, and I extend condolence to the entire family, and Keith most certainly would be missed. But, Madam Speaker, this is a very interesting bill, and bringing this bill forth is very, very timely. It makes me believe that this bill was brought specifically for Kalani. There are so many things within this bill, and what had recently happened affected Kalani, and shows that this bill is very important, must be properly funded, and that is very necessary. And at the same time, Madam Speaker, not only passing the amendment to this bill, but it's essential that every aspect of this is enforced. Without enforcement, Kalani, my constituency, will continuously be affected. Madam Speaker, just recently, we had a storm pass through our island. I was away, and I had great difficulty. It's amazing. The average individual, when hurricanes or storms are traveling, they would leave the country. But for some reason, I'm probably one of those Bahamians, like most of us. When storm is traveling, you want to get back home to be with family, friends, property, etc. You feel that it's essential for you to be there protecting everything as if you can stop the storm from coming. But I wanted to come home, and I was trapped in the U.S. For at least 2 days post-storm. But I was able to get back and deal with my personal matter as well as Kalani constituency. But even while off, I would have been communicating with many of my residents and members of my team, ensuring that Kalani is well looked after. But, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, within the Kalani area, when I say team, I'm talking about my Kalani team. Kalani team. Madam Speaker, in the Kalani area, we have a lot of wetlands. It is something we have been fighting for years. It's not with this government. with my government, with previous governments, etc. But this storm brought forth the problems and the chaos we can see in the future. And I would hope that this government and future government recognize and realize the catastrophic effect that can occur within New Providence, especially the West. I have complained in this Parliament repeatedly about filling in the wetlands. We had a great pond within the tropical garden area. That pond had multiple birds, turtles, fish. Kids used to go there, play with the turtles, etc. And it was continuously being filled in. The turtles subsequently disappeared. Fish has subsequently disappeared. Birds no longer fly there. And the homes within the area, of course, the pond was a drain off so that the area would not flood. But as a result of filling in the pond, many homes in our area now are flooded. And when there's high tide, because homes were built on the filled-in areas, when there's high tide, the pond obviously would rise and water comes up in individuals' yards and homes. And this is very significant. Madam Speaker, the airport is also being impacted. But before I talk about the airport, I want to state specifically areas that are affected within the Tropical Garden constituency, the Kiskadee. Madam Speaker, we have had cases where the water was so high that individuals were trapped in their homes 2, 3, 4 days. And we had started the pumping mechanism in 2022 so that individuals could have at least have some resolution to move back and forth. And I'm happy to see that the government is doing that with many areas because people want some degree of comfort. But then filling in wetland is one thing. But what is being done? Individuals are using, investors, they are using garbage, trash, can, all organic type substance. Those are put first in the wetland. Then a layer of soil is placed on top of that. And therefore, to the unknown individual, when they look, they're seeing land, not knowing that 6 inches below that land is nothing more than cans that you would have to move, bottles that you would have to move, cups that you would have to move. They're just occupying space. We have to stop that. It's dishonesty. Because when individuals try to build on that property, it may cost them more to build their foundation than to actually build a home. Because they must go down deep enough to hit rock before they can even start coming out the ground. Madam Speaker, I've seen and complained about, especially in the western area. And now, this land that was filled with trash and a surface of soil now have bush, trees on it, grass that has grown, wild bush. Individuals pass, they see bush, good land, thinking they're buying good land. But this dishonesty must stop. Bahamians are being robbed. Then the wetlands near the airport has likewise been compromised and commenced being filling. This started years ago. The airport road never used to be flooded or underwater. That wetland served a purpose on Tropical and the airport road. It served as runoff for the airport. And Madam Speaker, just recently, because of interference with the wetland in that area, the airport road was underwater. It was underwater. And if we don't deal with it appropriately and stop the disturbance of that particular wetland, the water will eventually drain to the runway. Our runway is only a matter of time before being compromised. That storm showed us how important it is for us to protect our wetland. The same thing happened in the Devonshire area. Individuals are sometimes trapped in their homes for days because of flooding. And this is throughout. Madam Speaker, while I'm talking about the wetlands, we have had excellent maps of the flood areas, flooding-prone areas within New Providence and the flood-prone areas. Madam Speaker, it's essential for us to look at those maps, look at the flood-prone areas, and if individuals want to build in those areas, there should be specific legislation and regulation dictating how their homes should be built. They should be built off the ground, maybe by stilts, or at least elevated to a certain distance. Why? Because they are in areas that we know will be flooded. But at least give them the comfort that should a flood occur, they would not be disturbed within their homes. Because the water entering the homes causes a different problem. You have problems with your utilities, your electricity, your light, your refrigerator, all of your appliances are compromised, your beds, etc. But that's a short-term effect. That's a short-term effect. But let's look at what happens long-term. We're only looking today about drying out individuals' homes. Yes, that's necessary. But let's look at what happens tomorrow. That home is now predisposed to development of molds. So the health of those particular individuals are compromised. We don't look at that because that's happening tomorrow. We're concerned about what's happening today. Then we find that they're having some chronic health problems that has to, and they must be presented to the hospital facilities, placing extra burden and taxes on our healthcare system. That is something we must do. There are maps showing us exactly where our flood-prone areas are located. But passing the law is one thing. Enforcement is another. Then, Madam Speaker, this bill also speaks about protecting the land. In the West, our roadway runs very close to the sea. And with this little storm, or whatever you want to call it, that we had, the road, the seawall has collapsed, and the road is being compromised. West Bay Street near the Saffron Hill area is already falling apart, and if it's not repaired as quickly as possible, then one day you will find that the road basically has been cut in half. Half of the road would have already disappeared into the sea, which would cost the government a lot more to repair as opposed to fixing it now while the road is just marginally compromised as opposed to severely compromised. Then there are other areas within the West that has to be dealt with. Near the Nesbitt area, the seawall, that seawall has to be constructed. There are homes on that roadway. The yards are filled with sand, salt, etc. And it's essential for us to have a seawall. And I ask you, Minister, if you're placing seawall there and fixing our road with proper seawall, do not hire the same contractor that was hired to do the go-slow bend. For God's sake, don't do that to us. We observed what was happening there at the go-slow bend. We don't need that. But, Madam Speaker, when we were government, the trees has a function. The trees absorb carbon dioxide, allow us to breathe freely, keeps our atmosphere, environment clean. And we were looking at the property in the Carmichael Road area going as far as South Ocean Boulevard, those areas. South Ocean. Coral Harbor area. That entire area of Belfields, we were looking at protecting that as a no-build zone. We complain about Nassau becoming so crowded, but yet we continue to build, destroying our trees, subsequently.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, because of the time, I would move that the House sit beyond 7 p.m.
Thank you, honourable members. It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House proceed beyond the 7 p.m. hour. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of this House will now proceed beyond the 7 p.m. hour. Honourable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It was our intention at that time to declare that Carmichael Road area, Coral Harbor area, wet fields, no build area, no build zone, and remove all the shanty towns that may be hidden within that area so that we can protect our reserve, protect our environment and our atmospheric oxygen and removal of our carbon dioxide. I would hope that the government look at that seriously. That would assist also in reducing the overbuilding problem that we face here and force more people to move to the family islands that has lots of open spaces and properties for development. And, Madam Speaker, we have another serious problem that has to be dealt with. The Frank Watson Boulevard. The Frank Watson Boulevard, a hill is constructed, roundabout. The roundabout is at this level, so as you can understand very easily. The roundabout is at this level. It subsequently goes into the road, into a valley, and then the road rises up and continues. So you have a valley on this side, the roundabout is here, it goes into the road which goes down and then rise again. So you have a bowl in this end of the roundabout and a bowl the next end of the roundabout. It is quite evident, and the member for Michael is an engineer, the member for Michael will understand this very well. It is quite evident that the water would drain down surfaces, and therefore the surface from this side would go into the bowl, and the surface from this side would go into the bowl. So we have a pond, which is man-made, this end, and a man-made disaster, this end. I would ask the ministry to have their engineers look at this matter again so that that can be corrected. I came after the storm. We had the areas pumped out as much as we can within the Kalani constituency. Sunday or Monday, I can't remember the exact day, the Frank Watson Boulevard was dry. Thanks to the sun, etc., it was dry. The water dried up. We had a light rain, not like the storm, a light rain that night. And believe me, you could not travel the boulevard again. One bowl was full, the second bowl was full. So you can imagine if we had a serious hurricane, it means that that bowl would come up to the level of the roundabout, and we'd have a real disaster. Individuals must travel all the way around. But, Madam Speaker, this is a matter that has to be addressed. Then, Madam Speaker, there's a matter that I want the ministry to be aware of. This is a matter that is of great concern to the residents, especially in the Grove community. And I'm going to read the communication they sent to the ministry and a copy that was sent to myself and other members of the ministry. And I want to read this letter, Madam Speaker. This letter to Charles Zonical, Director, Department of Physical Planning, Development on lots 13 and 14, Acadia Avenue, Highland Terrace Subdivision, Grove West. The Grove West Homeowners Association write to you on behalf of the homeowners of Acadia Avenue in the Highland Terrace Subdivision of the Grove West community regarding the development underway on lot 13 and 14 on Acadia Avenue, just one block north of Sanford Drive. The development on lots 13 and 14 on Acadia Avenue appear to incorporate the adjoining lot 15 on Sanford Drive. The homeowners of Acadia and the Grove West Association are concerned that the nature of this development is inconsistent with the zoning and land use regulations applicable to Acadia Avenue, which is zoned strictly for single-family residential use. Copies of the plot plans are attached for your convenience. Given the Department of Physical Planning responsibility to ensure compliance with zoning and land use regulations in the Bahamas, in accordance with the Planning and Subdivision Act of 2010, we respectfully request that the Department of Physical Planning immediately conduct the necessary due diligence and confirm to us the following, which is necessary to ensure that Acadia Avenue remains consistent with its intended residential zoning and land use. 1, the type of development underway on lots 13 and 14, and 2, whether said development is compliant with the zoning, planning, and land use regulations for Acadia Avenue. We thank you in advance for your urgent attention to the matter and look forward to receiving a formal response. This was signed by the homeowners, and copies were sent to the minister, Clay Sweeting, myself, Barkus O'Roll, Sophia Walker, and a whole gamut of individuals. Madam Speaker, so as individuals can understand exactly what's happening here. This is Sanford Drive, which is commercial. This is Acadia, which is residential area. The homes on Acadia is residential. Sanford commercial ceases at this dividing line because everything beyond here falls within the terrace residential. This individual subsequently bought property on Sanford, but bought the adjoining property in the residential area, and therefore including the entire area in their development, incorporating the residential component, subsequently having commercial within the residential. They're only asking that that be dealt with because there's been no rezoning. The Acadia is still residential, and I'm certain I must give the minister the benefit of the doubt. This was written on October 6th, So I'm just bringing forth to him 6, just 2 days ago. Just 2 days ago. But, of course, I am always in contact with my constituents, and if something happened today, I'm informed tonight. But, Madam Speaker, with those... Oh, yes. I'll table it. Just get a copy for the Prime Minister. I'll get you a copy. Madam Speaker, with those few words, Kalani rests its case, but I want to say that Kalani certainly supports this bill, supports the amendment, and I would hope that we recognize how serious it is for us to deal with our development differently in terms of building in flood zones, because you know you cannot do anything, but at least we can protect the homeowners, and we must protect the wetlands. And I'm not saying it's your fault. That has been a problem with all previous governments. But we must work together, protect it, enforce it, or we won't have a Bahamas tomorrow. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member Asmini.